Hello, welcome to الكرامة news channel. It is 9 p.m. our time for top stories, and we start with latest developments in Libya. Parliament published as the coming sessions to be held in Tobruk, and every of the boycotters can join sessions whenever they want. According to Libyan news agency, the roadmap discusses items including the place in the Parliament will hold its article number 16 in the discussion of the internal of the parliaments, the parliament committees and legislation issued by Parliament, and finally the developments of legislative enhancing transparency and efficiency. A high-level delegation arrived in Cairo by private jet Morocco via Tunisia after part in the signing of Sekhirat agreement under the United Nations. The delegation includes dignitaries and parliament members headed by Hamouda. Following the signing of political agreement in the city of Sekhirat, Egypt said in a statement that the settlement of Libyan crisis under the United Nations auspices, stressing that this process, which lasted for a year. Parliament member Idris Al-Maghribi said that members of parliament called on the so-called the head of the National Unity Government and the UN envoy Martin Kobler to introduce guarantees that the military will not be changed. Al-Maghribi added that he replied that this is up to the government and the parliament, pointing out that Parliament stressed that the sovereignty of military and that will not be vacant after 20 days, and this will lead to the collapse of the military institution. Member of the outgoing Congress, Maazeb, announced the start of sending invitations to members of the outgoing Congress to form the Supreme Council of the state declared within the political agreement that will substitute for the Congress as a board consultant. Maazeb said the National Congress will consist of 134 members in addition to 10 other members that will be chosen from outside the Congress. Countries have told the participants in Sekhirat ceremony to sign a political agreement between the Libyan parties, and the central bank will deal with the so-called National Unity Government starting from next January. Spokesman for the Special Forces, Milud Zewi, confirmed the control of the armed forces positions in Bouatni district in Benghazi. Zewi said that military belonging to the Special Forces carried out operations to take control of the new sites that were under the control of terrorist Daesh group. Head of the crisis operations at Al-Megarif Hospital in Ajdabia, Mikhail, announced that the dead in the city have risen beginning of the fighting of the terrorist Daesh group to 15 dead and 27 wounded, including civilians people. Mikhail added that the municipal council in Ajdabia, Abdelmonem Haroun, died during the clashes. For his part, the director of Al-Megarif Hospital said that the hospital is suffering a shortage of medical supplies, demanding the official to provide the needs to be able to work in these circumstances. United Nations envoy to Libya Martin Kobler expressed his concern about the outbreak of the city of Ajdabia since last Wednesday. Kobler stressed the need for the international community to express his need to focus on the international humanitarian principles in the fight against terrorism and protection of the civilians, noting that indiscriminate attacks targeting civilians are banned under international humanitarian law and can be regarded as war crimes. He also called for taking advantage of what he described as the atmosphere generated by the signing of a political agreement between the Libyan parties in Sekhirat to end the suffering of the civilian population in Libya. However, Kobler didn't clarify mechanism adopted to protect civilians from the brutality of terrorism under the arms embargo imposed on the Libyan army and the transitions of the international community and trials to impose its the base came to avoid clashing with members of an armed group in the region that rejected the presence of U.S. soldiers. British Defense Secretary Fallon announced that he is preparing for about 1,000 soldiers armed forces in Libya to fight against terrorist Daesh training of local security. This came according to an article published by the British The Express, which confirms that the mission of special forces will be exploratory in addition to eliminating positions of the terrorist Daesh group. The British newspaper Daily Mail quoted the British government spokesman as saying that the troops will not be involved in combating missions in Libya and it will be sent at the request of the so-called National Unity Government. Spokesman for the Secretariat of the Libyan Red Crescent, Mohammed al-Misrati, called on the international community to pay attention to the seriousness of the phenomena of illegal immigrancy in this day. The Misrati said that the Red Crescent Society of Libya celebrating this occasion said that Libya has become a point for death trips in which they are not qualified to sail for distances. And now my audience will transfer to the Arab arena and topped by Yemen. Yemeni troops loyal to Abdrabbu Mansour Hadi gained control of an important northwestern city. Residents and tribal sources said as the UN tried to salvage an increasingly fragile ceasefire. Al-Hazm, capital of the northwestern Al-Jawf province, had been under the control of the dominant Houthi group until the pro-Hadi forces captured it after 2 days of fighting. The sources said that Hadi loyalist troops had also gained control of the Lebanese military base near Al-Hazm, which has been under the control of the Houthi militia and their allies, fighters loyal to former President Ali Abdullah Saleh. A UN statement said that UN Special Forces or Envoy Ismail Sheikh Ahmed voiced deep concern yesterday, the 4th day of peace talks, at numerous reports of violations of the cessation of hostilities and set up a mechanism to strengthen compliance. The heads of delegations at the talks being held in Switzerland between the exiled Yemeni government and Houthi rebels had renewed their commitment to a ceasefire that took effect on Tuesday. The 7-day truce was declared to aid the chances of success of peace talks in an effort to end the civil war that erupted in Yemen last year. And now my audience will transfer to Iraq. 9 Iraqi soldiers were killed on Friday when a U.S.-led coalition warplanes mistakenly struck at troops near the city of Fallujah, Iraq's defense minister said today. It's a very regrettable incident and our losses were 9 soldiers and a brave army officer, defense minister Khalid al-Ubaidi told a news conference. U.S. Defense Secretary Ash Carter also confirmed the incident and said he had spoken with Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi by phone today to express his condolences over the death. Carter met with Abadi this week during a brief visit to Baghdad to assess the state of campaigns against terrorist Daesh group. The U.S. military is leading an international coalition and is waging an air offensive on extremist Daesh group in Iraq and Syria, where the militant group control large swathes of territory. Abadi said that the strike occurred when coalition air forces were covering the advance of Iraqi ground troops near Fallujah because the Iraqi army helicopters were not able to fly due to the bad weather. The U.S. military said coalition forces had acted on information from Iraqi security forces on the ground near Fallujah, conducting several airstrikes against terrorist Daesh group. My audience, that is the wrap-up of our top stories for today. For much more, you can check our website www.watanalkarama.tv. Thanks very much for being with us. My greeting, Rانيا البليدى.